the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fireside Chat. My name is Brian, and I am, unfortunately, not here with Robert Jackman, the journalist that worked at Vice. I'm really sorry, guys. Robert just asked me to move the date up to next Monday. Honestly, I did have a feeling that there might be some ghosting going on, but he did at least respond. So he's not here, and yeah, I was ready to talk to him. I was ready, and yes, I saw that you guys called it. I had to pop on at least just to let you know that I was here, I was ready, and I was more than willing to have this conversation. But I'm not saying that Robert didn't want to have it, but he's telling me that his day, he's busier. He was busier than he thought he was going to be, and was going to be at work longer than he expected. And he asked me if we can move it to Thursday. I told him I can't do Thursday. So we're going to move it up to next Monday. I asked him about next Monday, which, by the way, I was going to talk with Clownfish TV on. But I'm willing to move them up a week to talk to this guy. And he said, yes, that I can definitely do. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do it. So I guess we'll talk to him next Monday. So I'm sorry, guys, to make you wait for nothing. But sometimes this happens. We can't really control what the guests do. And for some reason, it seems to happen a lot more with male feminists. I'm just saying. So I don't want to keep you guys too much unless you just want to. Yeah, but people are saying now I have to hang out with you. I don't know. There's just, I'm here by myself now. So, and I don't even have a mouth harp to keep you guys entertained. So I guess I could read you guys the article. I won't comment on it. And then I'll show you what I'm planning to bring up. And then you guys can give me your thoughts. How about that? Does that sound okay? Or do you just want me to leave? Kick Brian. Read to us, Dad. It would have been fun to listen to this guy's sophistry. Yeah. Hey, Bane. Yeah, unfortunately the guest isn't here. I really wanted to talk to him about this article. He was the only one that wanted to talk to me too, or at least said so. I originally reached out to the woman that worked at Open Democracy, I think it's called. There's another website, and she was gonna talk to me. Okay, let me get you her name. She said she was gonna talk to me, and then I'm gonna find who it is here. Hold on, I wanna tell you. I've been talking to lots of different people, so I have to kind of go through. Oh yeah, Laura White was her name. And I mean White, like W-H-Y-T-E was her name, Laura White. And she was originally into it and was willing to come on. And she's from Open Democracy. And then she asked me if we made those YouTube videos about her. And I said, well, which YouTube videos are you talking about? We did make a video where we responded to an article that she wrote, but they weren't about her. They were about her article. And then she said, I said, which YouTube videos? And she didn't answer, so I don't know which ones, because it could have been anybody, right? And then I said, so Laura, it was a couple days later, what day is good for you? And she said, I'm afraid I won't be able to do this interview, and then blocked me. So I don't know. I'm assuming that it has something to do with a video that she thinks I made. We did make one about her article, but I didn't do anything personal. So I was talking to other people, and I talked to Robert Jackman, and he seemed pretty gung-ho about coming on, but he pushed it back. DCV Titan says, read the article, but don't comment on it or discuss your plans. The author could watch and then prep responses knowing what you plan to ask. Yeah, I'm just going to read the article. You might notice some highlights. That's just stuff I want to bring up, but I'm not going to... Just stuff I want to ask, let's say, for clarification on, you know? So, let's see. What I overheard at London's men's rights conference, from feminist witch hunts to a bunch of speakers arguing that men have it worse than women. Okay? I'm not going to say anything about that. This article originally appeared on Vice UK. When I click on that link, it doesn't take me to the article. It just takes me to Vice UK. So I don't feel like searching Vice UK for the article since it is here. But I was really curious to see if there was a comment section open on either article. There's no comment section on this one. So I don't know if there's like what the feedback might be from Vice's audience. But yeah. So, okay, here's what it says. This weekend, the global men's rights movement came to London for the 2018 International Conference on Men's Issues, an annual summit bringing together MRAs and their sympathizers from the US, Canada, Australia, India, and Europe. As someone who's been following men's rights for a while, I wanted to go along, partly to find out what actually happens at these events, but also to see whether the attendees really all were the women-hating wackos that they are believed to be. So who are the MRAs? What you realize at events like ICMI is that to the extent that a men's movement exists, it's really a bunch of smaller groups rallying around related issues. Of these, there are 4 main camps: child custody, domestic violence, false accusations, rape and sexual assault, and circumcision, still a huge hang-up for the movement. Add a couple of red pillars and alt-right types, and that's everyone covered. Age-wise, the ICMI's attendees range from men in their early 20s to senior citizens, with the main cohort being middle-aged. Demographically, it's more camera meeting than 4chan. There were also a handful of women present, most of whom were treated like near celebrities. Director Cassie J, for example, was happily autographing DVDs of her documentary, The Red Pill. What brings all these groups and individuals together is an underlying belief that the system is rigged against men to one extent or another. Some ICMI delegates attribute this to a general naivete amongst those in powers to assume the best of women. Others see feminism as a malign conspiracy to shatter the nuclear family and usher in an era of weak men and socialist state control. Now to the big question. Is the men's rights movement inherently misogynistic? At the start of 2018, the Southern Poverty Law Center officially classed 2 men's rights organizations as hate groups, identifying them as male supremacist. Overwhelmingly, groups or websites advocating men's rights present their arguments with a misogynistic slant, whether it's coded or undisguised. MRAs commonly have a victim mentality, viewing themselves as being systematically persecuted, with women getting a better deal, and many are loudly anti-feminist. So, is there misogyny within the movement, to the point you could say it's one of its defining characteristics? Absolutely. As the SPLC has pointed out, while some men's rights advocates, quote, voice legitimate and sometimes disturbing complaints about the treatment of men, what is most remarkable is the misogynistic tone that pervades so many, end quote. However, was the ICMI solely about women hating? No. Some of the speakers I saw managed to get their points across, the need to support male victims of sexual violence, for example, without resorting to misogynistic rhetoric or painting men as society's great victims. Even then, though, it wouldn't take long for audience members to make the connection to feminism as the ultimate evil. You'd think, too, that speakers would feel at least a little uneasy about speaking in front of banners proclaiming the latest lying feminist of the month, but apparently not. As a rule of thumb, the more overtly political the speaker, the closer they came to outright misogyny. At one low point, an Austrian political activist presented his red pill political platform, calling for compulsory paternity testing at birth. In general, the men's rights movement is obsessed with cuckolding, and acknowledging common ground with white nationalists. Most attendees watching on shook their heads as he spoke. Many of the MRA speakers there seemingly came to the movement not after being influenced by dogma, online or off, but off the back of some heavy personal ordeal. Of course, it wasn't possible to say whether all these stories were entirely true, or at least whether the men were blameless, but most sounded fairly harrowing nonetheless. One speaker, for instance, had been implicated in a lurid child sex abuse case, thrown out after the CPS ruled the accuser unreliable. On the other end of the scale, another gave a rambling presentation on the feminist witch hunt, which had driven him from his job at the University of Oxford. It even included a weird spider diagram naming individual feminists and detailing how they had wronged him. Maybe it's the intense emotional involvement that allows newcomers to swallow the wider dictum around men being of the oppressed sex, something that flies in the face of popular evidence. Take domestic violence. It would be silly to deny that men experience domestic violence at all, including from male perpetrators, of course, but to claim that men are somehow the biggest victims, either in numbers alone or by getting the rougher ride from the system, requires a real warping of reality. Whether that warping comes from an overpowering emotional response, i.e. the inability to see beyond your own traumatic experience, an internalized distrust of women, i.e. misogyny, or a mixture of both, well, that's the difficult thing to say. If men's rights have a strategic weakness beyond the outright misogyny espoused by so many of the movement's members, it's the inability to empathize with women who might be in a similar situation, or even build bridges with women's campaigns. This oversight means that even when the movement hits upon real issues, male sexual abuse for example, its tactics usually fall short of what the issue deserves. Of course, there were exceptions to this at the ICMI. When a male domestic violence victim praised recent information campaigns for being more inclusive and helping more victims come forward, you started to think that there might be some utility in a men's rights movement. At least one started from scratch, untainted by what it has now come to represent. And for all its faults, the movement is also genuinely invested in men's mental health. Often, though, the discussion has a habit of falling to the lowest common denominator. The language can be dehumanizing, whether deliberate or accidental. Men in general are men, whereas women are usually females. And you're never too far away from a cringeworthy or problematic interjection. Towards the end of the weekend, for example, one sympathizer of the Men Going Their Own Way movement, which advocates men avoiding relationships with women, questioned whether a speaker was too quick to attribute a particular woman's behavior to feminism rather than the nature of women themselves. It's attitudes like this that make the movement, not to mention the misogyny and its caricature of feminists as angry misandrists, hard to take seriously, and that will ultimately harm those it wants to protect. So, that's the article. I'm not going to give any comments on any of the stuff in it because I want to talk to him about it, and I want to see... I just want to talk to him about the article. Let's put it that way. We will see. He did also... When I spoke to him, he said that he felt that this article was a little bit old because it's from July of this year, because it's from like right after the ICMI, and that he'd be interested in talking about something more current, like the Jordan B. Peterson interview on GQ, I guess. I'm willing to talk about that, but I don't think it's a men's issue per se. Jordan B. Peterson's not MRA, and he might say a lot of stuff that I agree with regards to men. I'm just saying that to, let's say, characterize Jordan B. Peterson's interactions with the mainstream media as, say, similar enough to what the men's movement is trying to do as to be the catalyst for a discussion on Jordan B. Peterson's interview with GQ as though it's, very related, I think is a little bit, let's just say it's similar, but it's not the same. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go since there's no show. And I apologize, guys. I don't know what else to do. I don't want to talk about any more content related to the interview without talking to the interviewee. So, I thought maybe I should probably just wrap it up here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Thanks, guys, for coming on the fireside chat. It's just me talking to you, I guess. So, I guess we can call it a fireside chat. But we'll do the real one next week, and I'm going to unlist this video, just remove it after it's done, or I'll set up another one for next week. But I'll probably just delete this video because there's nothing in it. I'm just reading the article. Well, maybe I'll leave it up and just change the title. How about that? So leave me a comment about the article if you like, and you guys go ahead and discuss it in the comments. And I guess I'll talk to you guys, really soon. Well, I'll do a show tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. Until then, you guys have a good one, all right? Thanks for coming on.